Billionaires and the ruling class are parasites. How do you get rid of a parasite? You take medication that kills or paralyzes it, because it is necessary for your own survival. We all know that there's more than enough resources for all of humanity to thrive, but the billionaires are eating up the majority of them. So what does expelling parasitic billionaires look like in real life? Have we seen this before? The answer is yes, many times over. Let's explore some of the examples. Starting with the Cuban Revolution from 1953 to 59, the Cuban people overthrew their government, basically a US puppet government ran by the Batista regime. They allowed American corporations and a tiny elite on the island to drain all of the resources. The revolutionaries seized these assets and nationalized banks, sugar plantations, factories, and so on. They then redirected the wealth from these resources into education, healthcare, and land for the farmers that worked it. Within just a few years, Cuba slashed illiteracy and poverty, effectively proving that cutting off these leeches works. So with that said, the struggle is ongoing because it is in the interest of the United States for a socialist project such as this one to fail, and they will pull out all the stops, such as a brutal economic embargo for the past 60 years. Next, let's talk about Chile under Salvador Allende from 1970 to 73. Allende was a socialist who was democratically elected by the workers and was able to kick out foreign mining companies that had been looting Chile's copper for decades. He used the profits to fund housing, schools, hospitals for the people. Allende's brief rule basically displayed how resource sovereignty, without the parasitic forces siphoning out everything, actually works for the common people of society and can fund social programs. This absolutely enraged the United States, who, like the true parasites they are, orchestrated a coup along with Chilean oligarchs to overthrow Allende's government and install Pinochet, who was an absolutely ruthless, brutal dictator. Chile may only have had a couple of years there without the parasites, but they have another really great opportunity in 2025. Jeanette Hada's campaign, she's a communist, she just won the primary, and the general election is coming up later this year. She's running on a campaign to nationalize their lithium, which was stolen by multinationals, also to tax the rich to fund universal healthcare, among other things. The parasites are once again panicking because, again, now in 2025, the people are waking up. Let's quickly jump back now a century to the Russian Revolution in 1917. The Bolsheviks, led by Lenin, overthrew the oppressive Tsarist regime during World War I, when there was famine and massive inequality. Factories were taken from capitalists, land was seized from the nobles, and resources were then put under worker control. The parasites had lost their grip, and for the first time in Russia, the people had bread, power, and more control over their destiny. Quickly, literacy rates went from 20% to over 99%. The average lifespan also went up dramatically. Let's move now to Vietnam. After literal centuries of colonial French Empire sucking their resources dry like vampires, Ho Chi Minh's revolution was able to seize the plantation and mines and redistribute that back to the peasants. They were even able to completely expel the foreign exploiters. Even the US war machine was unable to stop them. A body that actually fights its parasites can heal. Land reforms broke feudal systems, and their post-war policies rebuilt infrastructure and education. But again, not without severe repercussions from US bombings and embargoes, because once again, any successful socialist or communist revolution is going to face severe backlash from the United States. And lastly, I think we need to talk about Burkinafaso. In the 80s, Thomas Sankara was also able to expel French colonial rulers. He banned feudal landlords and also planted millions of trees to prevent desertification. He slashed politicians' salaries, including his own, and vaccinated millions of people, and proved that kicking out or expelling the parasites can actually lead to a flourishing nation. But yet again, colonial leaders said, that doesn't work for us, and he was assassinated after just a few years in power. There is some good news on this front though, as the current leader of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré, is following in Sankara's footsteps and has actually already survived many assassination attempts of his own. Now let's take a look at current United States, a nation that is absolutely being strangled by parasites as we speak. Just 50 billionaires control more wealth than over half of the population, which is 165 million people. The top 0.1% control over 20% of the nation's wealth, while millions of people starve, freeze, or drown in debt. Landlords and banks extract $1.7 trillion in rent and interest every year. This is money they just straight up suck from the working class. Now let's imagine 50 giant tapeworms sucking up 20% of your body's nutrients. You're weak, sick, dying slowly. Would you negotiate with them, or would you simply purge them? And that's the predicament we find ourselves in. Do we simply stay entertained, distracted, and let the parasites keep feeding? Or do we paralyze them by seizing their wealth, their property, their power? History proves that it can be done. Even with the main parasite being intact, other countries all around the world have managed to expel them, but the fight is ongoing. But as people that live within the belly of the beast, we have the unique opportunity to take out the main parasite, which then has a ripple effect on all of the other struggles around the world.